Have you ever wondered what to say on a corporate discovery call to get them to say yes and sign a deal with you? Most people get this wrong and end up with a glorified coffee chat. But in this video, I'm going to break down the three most powerful questions that you must ask on a corporate discovery call to ensure the deal is in the bag. Let's get into it. So let's talk about why this is important. I talked about the coffee chat piece because I hear it all the time. People get interest, they have people on calls, and then they wonder, how do I turn this into an opportunity? So if you've been doing that, if you've been going to conferences or meeting people and getting referrals, and you're feeling like there's a disconnect in what happens next or what do you need to say next to move the deal forward, you're in. Also, if you've ever felt like you left the call and things were kind of wishy-washy, you're not sure what the next steps are going to be, and they say, well, send me something and we'll take a look at how we can move forward, and the whole thing is just not clear, then you must know you did not ask these three powerful questions, because if you did, you would know the clear next steps on how to move forward, and you'd move from being in the wishy-washy stage for 3 to 6 months, wondering if this contract is ever going to close, to a powerful next step that positions you as the expert and also positions you to close the deal. Okay, so let's get into the questions. I call this my proposal exit ticket. And the reason I do that is because I don't believe that as a busy entrepreneur, a multiple six-figure or seven-figure earner, that you need to spend time doing proposals or running through the mill with corporations when you have other things that you should be doing, unless it is a viable opportunity. So these questions also help you save time in the process to ensure you're not just spinning your wheels, wasting time when you have other things that you could be doing in your business. So the exit list ensures that after these three steps, you know whether this is a go, that you should spend your time and your team's time to move forward in pursuing this, or a no, meaning let's call it here and move forward. The first question identifies a need. So it goes a little something like this. Hey, John, tell me a little bit more about your current leadership development initiatives. What are some of the gaps? Now, of course, that sounded scripty because I'm giving it to you as a script. However, turn it into your own language. The goal here is to uncover what is the need or the gap that this organization has that you could potentially help them with. So you can't just show up and say, well, what do you guys need? You have to ask the right questions based on the decision maker that you're talking to. So you want to do a little bit of research. LinkedIn is going to be your friend for this, to really understand what their roles and responsibilities are so that you can ask a powerful question like that to uncover the needs and gaps. My goal is to always make the decision maker the hero of their team. So I also like to ask, what are you measured on? What are you focused on? What are your priorities right now? And how far are you off from achieving excellence in that area? That's an amazing question that shows you as a trusted vendor and partner, not just a person looking to sell something. When I was in my career, these type of questions are what led to ultimate opportunities. Okay? So once you identify the need, the next question that you want to understand is their timeline. This goes back to the importance of you as the business owner as well. You don't have months to spend on one opportunity. So if a person is not looking to make a decision for another 12 months or another 18 months, while yes, you're going to add them to your pipeline, and I could do another video talking about building pipelines, but at that time, your first response is going to be to understand if they are ready to move forward at this present time. So maybe they're not, maybe you're discussing a large amount of things that could be possible for you to assist them with, but what might be the one thing that they're ready to move on right now? And that's what you want to zone in and focus on. So timeline is important. A question for timeline could look just as simple as this. Okay, I understand the need and the gaps and where you're looking to get to. When it comes to the overall timeline and process that your team is working on, when are you looking to hit these specific milestones? Chef's kiss. That's the type of questions that you want to ask, because then they can say, well, hey, here's how it looks from, a budgeting perspective, or here's how this looks from when we're looking to achieve X, Y, and Z. And then again, you as the expert are putting a timeline in your head and the things that you need to complete as a team in order to address this opportunity. Again, don't steer away if they say, this is something further out. That's an opportunity for you to look and say, well, if we were to begin a relationship, it looks like there's an immediate smaller need right here that we can focus on now. Can we talk about how that could be a potential for beginning the relationship? Oh, so good. Okay. So once you have identified a timeline on the process, your decision tree there is, okay, we're working on something now, we're working on something in the future, and this is pipeline. Maybe I'm trying to pull in something smaller that we could start with, like a workshop or a small training, versus going in for an annual contract right at this particular moment. Your goal is to get in the door and build a relationship. Because even if you got, for example, on a smaller end of contracts, if you got a $10,000 contract, you have to understand that once you build a relationship with that company, you have unlocked at least six figures of opportunities, because that company has consistent needs quarter over quarter, year over year. And as you build that relationship with them, you're going to become the go-to and a part of that budget. Okay. So don't discount what I call in my book, Get Corporate Clients Now, first date offers, which are those smaller opportunities to get inside of the company and build those relationships, because that's what pays. All right. So once you've identified the need, we've now identified the timeline. This last piece is important, and I'll say most people figure out how to approach this in the right way. And I see a lot of people often get a little stumbly around this part because it's about the money. Now, I know you already understand this. You've sold, you've been in business before, so you've done your money mindset work, I'm sure. But oftentimes what I hear when it comes to corporations is they don't understand how the budgeting process works. They don't know the right questions to ask. They don't know how to properly position the budgeting conversation in a way that makes sense to an organization. So the context here and what you want to gather, again, for you as a business owner, is this an opportunity worth moving forward with? And the reason I have to point this out is because oftentimes organizations, especially we work with companies that go after traditional corporate contracts. We also have clients get contracts with nonprofits, universities, K-12 entities, right? And so among those organizations, a lot of people are often looking for speakers or trainers, but you really have to identify what that budget is, because it may not be enough for you to move forward and pursue the opportunity. And again, we don't want to waste our time in the loss of the sauce for months at a time, or sending proposals and email and follow up when we're not clear on that. Now, the tricky thing that these companies will do, and I know this because I've been on both sides, is that you could ask a straightforward question like, what's your budget? So that's the most easiest way to address this question, right? You'll get things like this. Well, we really don't have one right now. We're still working it out. Or my favorite, just send us what you have and we'll figure out how to make it happen. Now, I'm not going to say all the time, but more often than not, that last question or that last response is really a red flag. And you want to make sure you dive into that and cut it off right there, right? Sending over whatever you have and they'll work it out is possible, but I'm telling you, about 80 to 90% of the time, that's not going to work. You're going to work something up that is based on your value, based on what you discussed. And all of a sudden a budget pops out of the sky. Oh, that's not what we have, or that's not what we expected. So take the guesswork out of it and be real with them, especially as you're on the other side having the conversation with them. And you get a response that way, you just say, okay, I understand that. And I've seen, this happen before. You don't have to say that part, but you could say, I've understood this and you have seen it before because I'm sharing it. I understand where you're coming from. However, it's going to be very helpful for me in order to move forward and prepare something that's of value to you, to understand a ballpark of what you typically have invested in the past, or what the cost was in the past. Or again, based upon historical budget numbers, what do you all believe you can allocate to this project? So again, spin it back. Okay, I see what you're saying, but it's helpful for me to help you if we can really get clear on what the numbers look like. And then if all else fails and they're like, yeah, we still don't know, we're still trying to figure it out, then I would just throw out a ballpark number of what it typically would take to work with you. And here's a hint, don't give the low ball, and it's not just to protect yourself or to be able to get more on the contract, but even from a consumer perspective, who wants to hear that something is going to cost $10 and then when you finally write it all up, all of a sudden it's $20,000, right? So it's also helpful to be truthful about what the range of your services are, so that they can understand that from their end and be able to make a true assessment. And I always give a range, especially on the higher end, so that they can expect this to be like the max. And then if there's anything under that, then of course they get a little surprise and delight. Okay. That's what you want to do in that conversation. And the checklist or the exit ticket means that you've gotten an affirmative in each of these areas. You know that there's a true need that you are willing and able to solve. You understand the timeline and it aligns with your internal processes and how you wish to serve the client. And three, you understand the budget. It's in alignment with what, of course, they have to allocate for the project, and then also what you're willing to accept in order for the work that you're going to commit yourself to. Once you have all of that, you're free, of course, to be able to close right there on the call, right? So if it's a pretty straightforward opportunity, there's no additional decision makers, there's no additional review cycles. You know, when you get to larger contracts, you will have those things in place where you might have to have conversations with different levels of leadership. But for a straightforward contract, go ahead and close it right there. What are the next steps that we need to put in place on your end in order to move this forward? And then I can map out what it looks like on our end, because companies have their processes, vendor portals, contracts, you know, that need to go through their legal team. So you're going to have to co-create what the process looks like and ensure that you have those timelines in place on what you're completing in your team and what they're completing. Now, if for any case that there is, and we can do another call or another training on proposal calls, because that's a whole different thing. If this is a huge project, you are going to want to take some time to really walk them through what the solution looks like. Don't just email a proposal. Don't just email a proposal. No, don't do it. What you want to do instead is schedule a time to talk with them live. And I learned this front seat, especially as a veteran who had experience selling to corporations, 6 figures, 7 figures a quarter, doing all of this for the organizations that I worked for, and then coming out on my own. I have experienced this, right? You feel like, okay, yeah, I'll just send the email, and you know, it all rookie mistake that I should have known. And I'm telling you so that you can understand this of what the process for me looks like now, to ensure that as a business owner, I'm saving my time. And then I'm also being really clear about the processes that I share with a potential client. So I tell them, hey, let's schedule a time so I can walk you through the proposal, invite whoever you need to invite so they can all hear the same information, and just let them know you find that that is more effective than communicating by email, so you can answer their questions live and be able to discuss and co-create any changes and adjustments you may want to make. So again, position it as a benefit to them, but know in your mind, this is my process and how I work, because I'm not emailing a proposal just to sit in your inbox and wait for you to respond to me whenever you get ready. No, if I take my time and invest my precious time to prepare this, you're going to invest your time to show up, walk through it with me, and give me a response then. Now, everything is not going to be fast in a hurry, so I want to make sure that you understand this process condenses long lead times with corporate contracts, but it does not mean that you won't have to go through certain milestones in order to land the contract, because companies do have their internal processes. You have your standards, just like any other company, they have theirs. You have to meet in the middle on what you're willing to do in order to move forward with them as a client. And if it's outside of what you're willing to do, be willing to walk away as well. Okay. So that is the process. Those are the 3 questions that you want to ask in the 3 buckets that you want to hit. Now, if you want to understand more of what this looks like and how this can work in your business, I have a little preview for you that's going to map out exactly how you can take these conversations and turn them into contracts, not just the questions, but also setting you up for a successful proposal phase and moving forward to executing on the amazing contract that you are about to land. I know you are, since you're here watching this video. If you want access to that preview to really see how this can lay all out in your business, I want you to send me a DM on Instagram and just say call, and I'll know exactly what you're talking about in this video. If you look at the description, you'll see the link to my Instagram there. Send me that DM and I'll shoot you over the preview so that you can begin to see how this can work in your business, so your next corporate contract is already in the bag. When you get a decision maker on the call, you're going to feel ultimately confident with these 3 questions that you're going to ask powerfully, but it's got to be backed by a system that you understand. And I want to share that with you in the preview. All right. So I'll see you in the DMs. This was amazing. And I'll see you on the next training.